Welcome to the Casey Catch Up. Our first guest is Marcus Tardrew. I've had a long history of downwind paddling with Marcus, and he was also probably the first guy I ever downwind foiled with too. So I thought there was no better person to interview for my first, podcast interview. I don't know, just a chat basically. And I wanted to ask Marcus a bunch of questions because one, he's a good mate of mine, and two, Marcus learnt to downwind foil after I did, and I kind of helped him a little bit. But he lives in Western Australia, Perth, and it's the windiest place in Australia in summer. So he's done a lot of good testing, and yeah. So I guess to start with, Marcus, give us a little intro about you. You're always bad at intros for yourself, but I'm going to put you on the spot. So let's go.
I guess you know my name now. And yeah, basically I am from a background of sailing and competitive sailing, and then got into wave sailing, which made me move to WA, and then somehow got into stand-up downwinding, which I think I really loved because it was just out in the ocean and using the ocean to your benefit and not working against it and all that stuff. And that sort of probably was I don't know, it feels like sailing in a way without a sail. I don't know. So, but anyway, and then obviously now the foiling came up, and I never thought that we'd downwind with these foils. I think I said it to you 100 times, like, nah, it's not going to happen. But yeah, it happened. And here we are talking about it. It's crazy, but it's awesome.
Yeah, I think what stands out to me is probably Marcus and I, a lot of the time, we'd be going to Hawaii for the entire month of July. And there was probably three years in a row where we were stand-up paddling. So Marcus designs race boards, foil boards, you name it, ocean stuff for Sonova surfboards. And so Sonova got us on board, and Marcus was sort of part of the package. If I was to come, then Marcus had to come too. So we've been working together for a while now, and he's designed my Molokai to Oahu raceboard from the second time I did it to the time I won it in 2019. And I think the time, the 2019 you foiled it, Marcus. You're actually You're the first and only Australian to have completed M2O on a foil board, which is pretty cool. That's since Molokai hasn't been on for a few years. You're still the only person to have completed it. Pretty sick.
Yeah. Well, and you're the last person to win it, kind of. Well, they did it.
Still the champ. I'm like, don't run it ever again. I'll just be the last.
Yeah, I didn't even know that until my boss told me that, actually. But that's cool.
Yeah,
it's nice. It was just cool to do it. Obviously I'm pretty passionate about that race. Done it a bunch of times on the SUP, and the thing I love about downwind racing really long distances is that you can't fake your knowledge of like being able to downwind. You can't just sprint. You have to. The winner will be the best at reading the bumps, surfing the bumps. That's what's cool about it versus a 10K downwinder. Guys can sprint that nowadays. So yeah, it's cool. I like it.
Yeah.
It's nearly a sprint on a foil. The guys are doing it in like 2 hours. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's crazy. And you and I have always, Molokai today has always been our, holy grail. I mean, that's the one race that, we want to do well at, we train at. Go over there for the month, do a really good preparation. And it was really interesting, last time we were over there together, when I was training for the stand-up and you were training for the foil, the different training strategies we had. But I'm going to shift our focus back a little bit. Maybe we can chat on this a little bit later in the call. But I want to go back to the first year you were foiling in Maui with me, and I'd had a little bit of experience downwind foiling at home here in Sydney, and you'd done a bit too, but you were training a lot doing stairs and riding a bike just to strengthen your legs up beforehand, I think. And when you came to Maui, you'd done a couple of downwind runs, I think, but not a Molokai run. And I remember our first run together. You were just like everything you say not to do whenever we've paddled, you were doing on the foil, which is
Yeah.
I guess what I think about when I downwind foil is make it as easy as possible, especially for your first one. Once you're up, feel the glide, feel where the top of the bump is, and stay high on the bump for as long as you can and glide.
Yeah.
And what we all do when we learn to downwind foil on with the paddle is we paddle too much once we're up and we pump too much once we're up. And I remember there was one point when we were off Kanaha or something, I remember saying to you, Marcus, just stop, just glide a little. Yeah, yeah, mate, enjoy it. And I guess run me through your learning process, because everyone's is different. And where was your first downwind foil run, and when did it click that you would make every downwind foil run and not come down? Or
I think that time where you gave me all those tips, they were the tips that made me click, for sure. And that was I actually did it on a race board that year, but I took a foil board and I actually foiled Molokai the next year. So, but that first year, like I was just figuring out how to downwind. There was no way I was doing a full Molokai run without coming down. If I came down twice, that was amazing. And yeah, I think the thing for me, and obviously it'll be different for people if they didn't come from this background, but on those big 18-foot race boards, we were riding high on the bump, but where you were physically standing in the board, you're halfway down the face, or nearly sometimes in the trough. And I kept wanting to be there. And being on a foil at the top of a wave and then out of the water too, because you're obviously out of the water, looking down into the trough like that, I couldn't get my head around it. And it just wasn't natural. And I had to, the bonus of me coming from the downwind race boards and kind of being a lazy downwinder, I just didn't want to paddle, I just wanted to surf, was that I had that knowledge. But yeah, I guess the bad part about it, I was just so used to standing down in there, and even though you kept like hounding me while we're going downwind, stop pumping, ride the wave, surf the wave, I was like, nah, I'm going down there. And obviously, you're using the energy, and the crazy thing with the foil is how much you can feel it. You can obviously feel it on a race board in a different way, but the foil just comes alive, if you find the energy pockets and ride high on the mast and all that stuff that you figure out as you go. It's an art form that I think that's why we love it, and you keep going back to it. It's the same as the race board, you never master that. It's simple.
I think what you said there, Marcus, is like riding high and where you're sitting. I think that's a really good point. And you've come from a downwind background. A lot of people who haven't come from a downwind background want to learn to downwind foil. And what they do is exactly the same thing is they're trying to pump down to the bottom of the wave because that's where they think they want to be. But as you mentioned, up high on the wave and up high, almost like on the peak, but almost behind the peak, it is almost the sweet spot because you've got somewhere to accelerate into and onto. And it's.
I guess the way that I sometimes describe it to people is, if you surf, you don't just go straight out into the flats. You see pros, they line up to do an air or something. They're really high on the wave pumping, but that's where everything happens. And when you're downwinding, you're trying to do, I always look at downwinding like it's a race of conservation, like you're conserving your body energy for these long things like Molokai anyway, so you want to last, you want to still be going as fast at the end as you were at the start almost. Or you're not bonking at the end basically. So you want to find all these high energy pockets and go fast. I think in that long distance stuff, in the short stuff, sure, maybe you ride high and you're pumping over and over stuff, and especially maybe the kids, but that's probably old for that. But and I think the other thing, when you're learning, obviously riding high, probably that's something that you try and do more and more of as you get better. You're obviously trying just not to crash when you learn, so you're more riding low but foiling and trying to figure it out at the same time, but not breaching and stuff obviously. But I think for me as well, like working in a foil shop, and guys come in and they say, oh, I want a downwind foil, I don't want to use one of those slow wings and I'm not going to be able to keep up with the swells. It's kind of, I think it's a silly way to look at it. You got to be able to foil. If you don't foil, you're just not going to do it. And you won't keep up with the swells anyway when you learn. Even if you're going to have to use a big wing to learn to paddle up, because it's just how it is. And you'll get better and better at it, and obviously learn to paddle up smaller wings, but you're going to be going slow, trying to keep up with ocean swells that are in deep water. They're moving so fast. Eventually, even on these little fast wings, you're going to have to pull off them. So these big wings, at least you get flying. Like I learned on a Molokai 280, which is, people would look at that and be sick. But
I still recommend people to use the 280 to get started, because it's such an easy wing to paddle up onto the foil. And I think Marcus, I've always nicknamed Marcus the turtle, because he's like, you got to go slow to go fast. And it's a really good tip. And I've always joked, and Marcus as well, we've always said the same sort of thing, is in the raceboard world, we've always said there's nothing slower than swimming. And that's basically when people want to ride these really skinny raceboards and they're falling off, one fall and you're already slower. Same with the foil. If you come down once on the foil and you're not foiling anymore, you're basically going backwards, one. But two, it's way harder. It's way harder to paddle up onto the foil twice than to stay on one glide the entire time. And that's, I guess, Mark and I've chatted a lot about this, and it's, you got to go, you're better off going slower, but consistently, then faster, and then falling off and not getting up for another 10 minutes. And so,
it can, if you're not a patient person, it can wear you down too, trying to paddle a foil up downwind. I know why it's not crazy popular. It's hard. It's real hard.
Actually, on that, how was your first experience? You mentioned you used the Molokai 280 to start with. How did you learn to downwind foil? Because you did already know before you came to Maui that time. So
I came back from Maui, and I had the 200, the M200, and I was trying to learn on that. And I was living in Queensland at the time, where there's less wind. And I was like, I'm just going to buy the big one, and I got it, and I didn't change anything. As soon as I bought that wing, I could get up and foil, and it didn't matter that I couldn't keep up with the bumps, because I learned to pump, I learned to pump around and hunt all the bumps, which you got to learn anyway, whether you're using a NL 160 or that. At some stage, you got to go hunting and find something. It's kind of cool. I was foiling and I was loving it. I didn't care how slow I was going. I couldn't believe that I was foiling downwind and doing it continuously for kilometers. It was amazing. And then, I think people, if you are looking at it like, I want to go fast, I think you've got to change your focus to, my first goal is to get up and foil. And my second goal is to complete a run without coming down. Once you do, this is how I looked at it anyway. Again, and I might be wrong. And then once I did complete runs, then I was like, okay, now I'm going to try smaller foils and try and go faster and sit higher on the mast, and try and start to work on the little 1%ers that make you a faster downwinder.
Yeah, and what you said is exactly what I tell the crew I'm coaching. And there's no point shifting down wing sizes if you can't, one, get the whole way on your downwind run on that foil. Only then can you start to think about using a smaller foil. And two, once you do start use a smaller foil, you better hope you can paddle it up. And that's one of the hardest things, I think. And it's a hard thing to teach. And a lot of it's about feel, and there's a lot of people think it's power, but I actually think it's more technique and timing than people realize. And I guess let's break it down and like, because we've spoken about this a lot, Marcus, actually. What do you
trying to adjust the volume?
what do you look for when you're trying to paddle pump up like into the start of your downwind foil run? What are you trying to?
It's funny when you say what am I trying to look for, because I did a run towards the end of our season last season, and with a guy who was sort of just starting to get up and do some runs, and I was like, I'll come with you and I'll try and help you out if I can. And he was looking behind, he's like looking for the wave. I sort of said, try and just feel it. Like you'll feel the tail sink down, and you'll just feel that you are sinking into a trough. And if you're sinking down into it, you'll feel the tail kick up and start to, that's obviously a little wave, and it's not a swell. That's the thing. I think people think you got to paddle up on a swell. I don't think that that's even possible. Not for me anyway. But yeah, I look for a little short, sharp bit of wind chop, and I said to him, I was like, look, I'll catch what I would catch, and just have a look and see how it looks, and because I don't know how it looks either. I just do it from practice, and he goes, that was so weird. I would have never thought to have paddled up on that bump, or lack of. Like, he just was used to looking for swells, or this one that was going to break nearly and catch it. And he came in a few weeks later, and he's like, I've been working on that, just feeling that, and he said it helped a lot. But I think for me and you, I was really lucky when I learned. I actually had you around quite a bit, because we did that stuff in Maui, and I got a lot of pointers. But a lot of it was worked out for ourselves on pretty strange gear as well. Like when I was first foiling, you couldn't just walk into a shop and buy a downwind or a SUP foil board. Yeah. I think we were still sort of developing something worth selling at the time. Yeah, but I think that's the thing. Like I sort of feel it. I don't really look ever. I don't look behind me. I feel that little bit of chop. The other thing I do quite a lot is, you're in the ocean, so the bumps, they're very small, and if you're sprinting for something that's knee high and fat and traveling fast in the middle of the ocean, you might be nearly up, and that starts to fizzle out, or another bump comes across that. And if you've got like a bump going that way that you're trying to get up on, and then this thing comes there, if you don't turn mid pump and adjust everything you're doing, that just stops you. You'll just hit that and stop, and then start again.
Like what you've explained, Marcus, is exactly the same stuff that I was chatting. Like when I took Zane out, Zane Westwood is a freak foiler. He can pump around for probably longer than anyone I know, to be honest. Yeah. And we did a downwind foil run, and he's like, "Oh, I'll take my P180." I'm like, "Yeah, okay." It was a pretty windy day. I'm like, "Yeah, start with that." But I kind of think, so we just did a short run. It was 3Ks, and I said, we'll start with that, but I think you're probably going to want to use a larger foil, like Marcus, like we just spoke about then. And then when he was getting up, he was literally, as you said, he was looking behind him. I'm like, "What are you looking for, mate?" He's like, "I'm looking, see the swell coming." I'm like, "Don't worry about that." So I paddled up next to him, and I said, "Just paddle along with me. Like, we'll go together, and I'll show you what I'm looking for." And as you said, it's a lot of feel. And sometimes the best ones you can't even see, which is even harder to teach. Yeah, but it is that feel. And sometimes you can see them. It's always after the swell goes past you, after that peak goes past, and you're in that trough. That's when you want to think about start paddling, and with that feel.
So usually, like you say, that one goes past, and then you feel it sink. And like I said, I'm kind of lazy at all this stuff, so I'll just be drifting. I'm not paddling at all, and I feel it. I'm like, okay, so when that goes through, I'm like, yeah, this next one's the one. I can feel it. Yeah. Then I'll sort of do like 2 big strokes just to get the board from stop to just a bit of momentum. And as soon as that tail's up, I'm sprinting and pumping and pump paddling, I guess you'd call it.
Yeah.
For my life until you get it up, and every now and then you just get that nice clean one that's just dead straight, and you're up.
Sometimes
quite often in the ocean, you've got that cross one, you've got to adjust, like turn right, turn left or something.
Yeah, as you said, sometimes it's just like, it just happens. It's so easy. You literally, sometimes I've gotten up in like 2 strokes, and I'm like, how did that happen? And then other times you'll take 1 stroke and you can feel that it isn't right. And a lot of times I'll do the 1 stroke, I'll just stop. Like, no, I wasn't feeling it. And then you wait for the perfect one, and it's so easy. And sometimes when you force it, you've got to paddle as hard as you can, and it's super hard. And as you said, sometimes I'll get up on one, it's not the right one, but I've just milked it, and I get up, and I actually, if the wind's going this way, I'll actually turn backwards, and then to go forwards again. Because as you said, you don't want to run up the back of that trough, or you don't want to run up into that peak in front of you. So that little turn back and then down again can really save you a lot of effort, so to speak.
You were just saying,
I was paddling for it and I'm going backwards and then
Yeah.
forward again, like you're saying, when that's one comes
Yeah.
across or the one's coming too fast, and paddling and
Yes.
then readjusting your
Yeah.
line is huge.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the cool thing about the wingding thing as well, is that people can sort of they can use that to obviously get up and foil super easy, and then turn it off and learn it. It's still very different when you're riding the bumps, but I think that's sort of going to teach people the second part. I kind of look at it like there's two things to learn that are equally as hard. One's just that first 20 seconds of getting the thing to foil, and then there's the rest of the run. I've seen, we just got these in the shop. I know you just got one as well, these foil drive things, which I'm pretty excited about, because a lot of guys in WA, they want to do it, but especially if you're time poor, you've got kids or family, you don't want to waste your afternoon drifting downwind trying to paddle up a N280 when you can get on a NL 130 or a small wing.
The first downwinder, the first sup foil downwinder is the worst thing you'll ever do in your life. Even my first one, I went from Manly to Longreef, and I got up and I foiled probably 3 or 4 Ks, but to get up and to stay up, I've never been so gassed. I remember sending you a video, you and Kelly, and Kelly goes, "Geez, mate, you were working pretty hard," because I left the sound on and the GoPro on my mouth. And he's like, "It looks sick. It sounds horrible."
There's no way around that. I've never seen. I mean, I'm sure some of these Maui kids probably just do it first time, no worries. But I've never seen anyone like learn to downwind a sup or a foil and just do it without effort, because you're just doing everything wrong. you make it hard. But that's just time on the water. It's the same as that feeling, that bump that you take off on. I mean, how many times do you reckon you've done that? Probably thousands.
Yeah, too many.
Crazy, yeah. So you obviously get much better at that. I think I still noticed myself getting better at it. And I'm sure I still am, but I was noticing how much better I was getting at it. Still like 2 years, maybe even 3 years into downwind foiling.
Yeah.
Just finding the small bits to take off on.
I just found anytime I'm forcing it and not waiting for the right bump, it's always a bad idea. If I'm like chasing someone or I want to get going because I'm running late, I always go for the wrong bump. And when you've got time, you sit out there, you watch conditions, you're standing up, you're waiting for it, you feel it, you go for it. It's pretty much 100% success rate. Whereas when you force it, for me, it's probably like a 50-50 now. Like I can get up on most things, but if I don't get it right, it's the most
especially as you
feeling.
Yeah, and as you do it more, we start pushing what we're riding wing wise. I started using the 160 a lot last season, and that even at my weight, I'm a little guy, but that's still you need everything needs to happen right to get foiling on that. With my power, I don't train for paddling or anything. I just downwind foil when it's windy, and that's it. So, like I might take, and I've tried to figure it out. If it takes me 2 minutes to get up, or a minute, wouldn't usually be 2 minutes, maybe a minute max. And wait, and it might be one attempt missed or something. But is it quicker? If that was at a start line, do I make that minute back up with that smaller wing? But it's cool. That's what's cool about.
That's the direction the sport's going, isn't it? It's getting faster and faster, and there will be minutes. Like start lines will be slower, I think.
Yeah. The thing that was really cool about the Molokai, I thought, was you're starting in the flat. It's offshore. So luckily, it was howling, so we had some little bumps. There's usually a bit of boat traffic and stuff around, so you find something, but it's pretty flat. And the kids just paddled up. That was like no issue on wings, half the size of mine, and they were just gone. I was like, oh geez, and but got up. And then you got the middle of the channel where the bumps are, there's boats disappearing in these troughs. They're big. And you're not really hanging with them. At least I wasn't on the foil I was using. And then you got another flat section at the end where people like, Kai basically, he foiled to the finish. And if anyone has done Molokai, that's because I truly don't believe it shows on screen, but what he did there was, I'm convinced he's a robot.
Ridiculous. I paddled into that headwind on that unlimited, and
it's ridiculous.
That was probably the strongest headwind I've paddled into, and I didn't catch a wave the whole way in on my unlimited race board, and that I didn't catch a wave the whole way in, and I was looking for a wave.
It's one of the most amazing things I think I've seen done on a foil.
After going 50 Ks,
he's one of the best competitors in the world. I wonder if he weighed up the option of going slower in the channel with a bigger foil. Get up easier one, maybe go a bit slower through the middle, because he wasn't winning through the middle, and then he passed Jeff in that flat section. That's cool. I like all that nerd stuff.
Like the fact he got, I'm not sure if it was a fluke that he got it right, or he knew that Jeffrey was going fast.
After China Wall, there's that he went through this tiny little gap in the reef. I don't think I've been through there on a race board.
Yeah.
So I was like, he knew what he was doing. He
did a bit of reconnaissance. That drone footage, I'll have to find some of it. It's pretty amazing. But let's bring it back to, I guess you mentioned the foil drive and winging to help you learning to foil. And this is exactly, I just used the foil drive earlier, 4 days ago, and I was amazed. Have you used it yet, Marcus?
No, it's rigged up in the shop. I'm interested in it. I still haven't even used an E foil yet, and we've got one of them in the shop too. But,
this foil drive is for people who want to learn to downwind foil. It blows my mind how good it is. Basically, so the electric motor is at the top of the mast, so you can get your speed up, and you can pretty much E foil up. But once you're up, a few little pumps, and the motor's out of the water. And it's at a point of the mast that if you're that low anyway, your board will be touching. So you're just foiling. And like I went out at one of our spots here locally, and I foiled out, literally E-foiled out to the wave, turned, and I rode the wave all the way in. I was like, this is foiling, but with the benefits of E-foiling, like full-on hybrid. And they want to call it a foil assist or paddle assist. It's a hybrid of an E-foil and a foil. I honestly think it's the best of both worlds, and to me, it's better than winging.
Like the assist, because it really does assist you. From what I see, anyway, it just assists you onto the foil on stuff that you probably aren't going to get on, and then it comes out of the water. That's the coolest bit. So I'm excited for a lot of the guys in Perth who want to downwind foil, because, like I said before, I sort of break the foiling downwind into two bits. Is like that first bit just getting up, and then the rest of it. So at least if you can do that first bit easy, then you can really master that second bit. And if you can foil from A to B pretty well, you're confident I can go 10 Ks, maybe coming down a couple of times, and then you take the motor off, and then you learn the first bit. But it's going to take a lot of the
There's no more paddling down the entire way. You're going to get up.
You're going to get up, and that's I think that can wear people down.
That's why I guess we've seen in WA the growth of winging. The winging downwinding is probably I'm not sure, but it's probably bigger than the actual SUP foil downwinding.
It's massive. Well, Perth's pretty unique place. It's quite windy in summer, and a lot of people here were all windsurfers. Like wave sailing here was huge, or even just any type of windsurfing. But a lot of really good windsurfers have come out of WA. So a lot of them have actually got that background. Whether if they don't know how to foil, they knew how to windsurf, and it's very similar. Obviously, you hold the sail kind of the same. They know they know the basics of the whole wind bit. And they learn to foil on a wing. So it's pretty cool, because I think I learned to foil in the waves, and I think that's really hard because of the whole acceleration part. The thing
the takeoff on a wave is the biggest burst of energy, and like you said, it's the hardest thing to do. That's how both you and I learned. Now they're going behind boats, they're winging, they're using E-foils. I'm like, man, where was this when I was starting?
Oh, and when we learned there was not many brands, and all of them were pretty boosty foils. So you take off on a wave and they want to boost. Now there's some brands I've used like Armstrong and Lift, and they're really back-footed, and you take off and you have full control of when it comes up. You know, all the foils are different, but yeah, back then it was just like, hang on, catch the wave and hope no one's close to you.
Yeah, get ready for the eject button. It's going to launch you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it was scary. I was so scared. I was scared for weeks, just petrified. I'd look around. If there's anyone within like 20 meters of me, I'm not catching that wave. I'm going to kill them. But yeah, I think it's cool now. The equipment's better. We got stuff like foil drive, and hopefully we'll see more people do it. I'd love to see it grow. Downwinding's always been a tricky thing, you know. Even in SUP, it became a much, you know, the Maui thing was huge, but then Euro Tour started and it got more professional, and people were, you know, it's hard to plan a downwind race. You need wind, so you got to go to certain places. Whereas you can run a Euro Tour or something like that anywhere. And I watched one chat with you and Mike Jucker talking about, you know, pumping races. And I kind of agree with you. I was like, maybe not in Australia, but when you think about it, I think it'll be a thing. I think we'll see winging races for sure. We already are starting to see them. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we see pumping races.
Yeah,
just pumping flat.
There's plenty of crazy landlocked people. There's even a few guys around here that don't really foil in the surf, but they wing, starting to wing in the ocean. But like one of the guys I know, he literally he's built a portable dock or like a step so he can dock start wherever he goes, because he doesn't like to catch waves, because the waves are hard, the waves are challenging. So he literally just goes to the lake, and there's no boats, they're not even thieving. And he's just doing a dock start and he's just pumping around in circles and he's frothing, just like loving it.
He must have huge legs.
Yeah, he's a little dude.
His legs would be bigger than yours, Jimmy.
Oh, probably, mate. Yeah, they're pretty big if they're bigger than mine.
Yeah, those rugby legs.
Yeah. But let's go back to the winging downwind, and you mentioned earlier the different lines, and I guess I want two more things before we finish up. I want to tackle winging downwind and how that's different, the angles you've got to take, and how the wing. I think you agree it's either sailing or the wing gets in the way a little bit if you're going to free wing. And then the last thing I want to finish on is this prone downwind foil carrot that I guess the guys in Oahu are kind of dangling in front of people, and how, or your thoughts on it. So let's start with the winging.
Yeah, the winging. I think it's like the gateway drug to using a paddle. Hopefully. I really like the wing. I still we get a bit of weed here, which sucks with the paddle, as you know. We did it for 100 Ks. But so if it's super weedy, I'll just take the wing out, because you can still have fun. You know, you do a jump and it will come off, and you can also use tiny wings. So I love whipping into ocean swells, and then because they use these tiny wings and they're so fast, you can sort of go top to bottom like you're surfing, but in the middle of the ocean, which I like. But I know there's something about this, the downwind, it's such a different thing, you know, using a big wing, and it's your concentration, it has to be switched on, or you can't turn off for 1 second, or you're probably coming down or make a bad mistake. Which, I like. It's kind of like meditation. I don't know what it is about it. You got to be in it. But the wings are a lot more forgiving. Sometimes I'll just go for a wing. Like I said, if it's weedy, and I look forward to winging racing, like maybe in a course where you just go out around a buoy or something like that. I don't know. I haven't really seen the winging races yet.
I guess on the wing, are you free winging, or are you like sort of more using the wing as like a sail to sort of blast downwind?
No, I try to not use it. But I don't really, if I do a downwinder with the wing, I don't really have my watch going or anything. I like to blast out, do a few jumps. But I love going as fast as I can go on a foil and whipping into a wave at it like a skate ball. That's just, I don't know, I just muck around, I guess. I'm just like a little kid. Whereas, and you know, you're crashing all the time and stuff like that. It's fun. But yeah, when you're downwinding, you can still crash, but sort of you get to a point where you don't really crash anymore, and you're working on the little things, and it's more of a thing where I don't know, you're just trying to get better at it and iron out all the little things, and it's these little 1%ers. It's just a totally different thing. So yeah, I like mixing it up, but I do still prefer the paddle when the conditions are right, when there's no weed. Like, you know, you go to Maui and there's no seaweed. And the bumps are huge. That's epic. There's no better foiling for me. I just reckon it's awesome. It's cool.
Can't wait to get back there, eh?
Oh man.
Especially with like the new foils, everything's going fast, and it's like,
yeah.
That board with that foil, and
yeah. Compared to what I was riding when I was there last time,
seriously,
a whole new experience. Yeah. So,
what I found with the free winging downwind, I guess, like I'm calling like holding the wing out to the side, and you're basically foiling and the wing's out. You're just parking it behind you. I find on the best bumps that the wing kind of gets in the way because you're going faster than the wind. The swells have a bigger push, so most times you've got to work these angles like almost quartering, like we would in a race board, quartering out to sea or quartering into shore. And that's, to me, that's like, the best part about downwind. You can't go straight with it.
And it's scary when it drops in front of you. I guess I didn't really answer your question. I do a bit of both, but when I whip onto a wave, then I let go and I free wing. But yeah, I don't. It's good you brought that up. I don't wing unless it's howling, because I hate that. When it drops in front of you, you may as well chuck a blindfold on it. It's so scary. I hate it. I'm a bit of a wuss. That just freaks me out. Like, this is not good.
Foiling blind.
Yeah, seriously, it just like drop the curtain in front of you. It's not my cup of tea. But when it's windy, I really like it. And the cool thing with the wing, obviously downwinders, you need logistics, and sometimes you finish work or whatever and you haven't spoken to anyone, you just go for a blast around, come in.
I've been using the wing to similar when I just haven't got myself organised. I literally go to where I'd normally finish, and I literally just wing upwind for 40 minutes, go as far as I can. Usually I get, 4 or 5 Ks, depending on the wind, upwind, and then I literally just deflate it. And like 4 or 5 Ks straight upwind, so you're covering about probably 15 to 20 Ks actually sailing because you're zigzagging up. I usually deflate the wing once I'm up and going and have my paddle in a backpack or whatever, and I'll just try to foil the whole way home without coming down. And it's kind of the best of both worlds, where you're sailing upwind. It's better than driving in a car or doing a double shuffle or sitting in traffic or whatever it is. So you're getting that water time, but then you foil downwind and you're literally just foiling. And because I'm deflating while I'm up on the foil, I literally just sort of deflate the air and just wrap it up, and you just go for it. And it's the most free feeling you'll ever get, even more so than paddling up, because you like to sort of hit the eject button. So
I'm not even good at packing those things up on land. I'm not going to try that.
You got to try it. I remember I did it over in WA when I was there last, I think, or maybe 2 weeks ago. I went out to the Centaur marker, deflated it, and had the sickest run all the way into Sorrento. It was crazy. Probably one of the best downwind falls I've ever done, to be honest. But that was a good day. That's
another ball game. Stop adding extras into this.
All right, let's we both agree that downwind foiling with the wing is epic, but there are limitations to it, and that's why we both like the downwind with the paddle. There's this crew of the Voyager Foilers, epic. I love their footage. They've got such a cool crew over there and this epic vibe. And obviously conditions are awesome. The spots where they're doing it, they've got these outer reefs and the wind is strong, and they're going to be putting up more footage because it's June and it's summer over there. So I can't wait to watch the rest of their summer. But this prone downwind foil thing in Sydney, I can tell you it does.
Are these Maui guys? I mean, Hawaiian. Are these the Hawaiian?
Yeah, on Oahu. So they're doing Hawaii.
I don't actually follow them. I'm not.
Man, you got to follow the Voyagers. They're.
I'm gonna. Well,
give them a follow. Tell them I sent you. But they basically do runs. You've done the Hawaii Kai run with me before. basically starting at China Wall and finishing, but they actually start at basically Diamond Head and they go back to the Outrigger Canoe Club, more or less.
Oh yeah.
I think that's like.
Or is that like 5Ks?
Yeah, it'd be about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're downwind foiling, and like the way you said that, I know what you're thinking is that 5Ks is kind of short, but
I think it's cool. It's I've never done the prone downwinder thing. Yeah.
And why is that? Why haven't you done the prone downwind thing?
Obviously, I think it's going to be different wherever you are. For us in WA, with the weed situation as well, it's just like this risk thing where I think you're going to want to stay pretty kind of close to shore in case you catch weed, or even if you catch weed, you can keep going. But if you catch enough of it, it's going to stop you for sure. So you're going to have to come down, paddling, get another chipping. We've got a fine coast for as far as the chipping goes, and then pumping out. It's just the weed thing. The guys I foil with most do a lot of it, like Foil Perth and Mick McCormick from I just call them by their Instagram names, like that's normal. But that's how people will know them, I guess. But they do it. Nathan, I've done one with Nathan where he's done it'd be about 15Ks, and which I love it. But when he said he was doing, I'm like, oh man, I'm going to be picking him up halfway. I'm going to have to find him on the side of the road or something. But he popped up at the end right next to me. But I haven't tried it because I can't be bothered if it goes bad.
It's kind of like when you for people that are first learning to paddle downwind, but probably worse because to get going, you literally got to paddle into shore. And for me in Sydney, with all the headlands we have, the longest beach we have, I think, is like 2.5 or 3 kilometers, and our headlands are probably the biggest ones about the same, 2.5, 3 kilometers. So you've got to be at least that far out, and the best wind is that far out. So for me to foil,
that's kind of the same here. Yeah, like all that stuff aside, where you go on a foil. I mean, Nathan Foil Perth. He's done a few where he comes right out, which is epic. But he's a bit crazy.
Yeah.
But the thing, like if it goes bad, it's just like, I really can't be bothered paddling in from out there, like a kilometre out. And because the bumps are all in Perth, the bumps are just so much better out there. It's kind of like you're playing in little, like the kids end in there. This is just talking about Perth, it's small, and you're basically just cutting out, catching another swell in, cutting out, because the swells are starting to then wrap onto the shore. And as you get further out in the deeper water, they're just moving down the coast with the wind. Maui is a bit different because you get, I don't know if we're talking about Maui with these kids, but Maui, you got swell and wind, it all goes one way. Perth, if you get swell, it pushes into shore and the wind's going down the coast, so it's a bit different. And even if you don't have swell, that wind swell will then curve into shore as it gets closer to shore. So just out to sea is better. It's bigger and it's faster, and so I guess that's why. Don't get me wrong, I would love to be like when I surf foil, I surf a prone board because that's more fun. I would love to be out there on a prone board, but it's not going to happen for me. I don't want to be paddling into shore at night time, hitchhiking to my car. That's all I can see happening if I do it.
The way similar to you, I see it as a epic in the right spot, and Maui is a spot that it would work. Oahu, where they're doing it, I know we've paddled it, we've foiled it.
Yeah,
that last bit, the swells that run through there, like you literally jump on a wave and you pump out, and the swells are so clean and so glassy, and it's pretty epic.
It'd be amazing. Yeah. I only did it that once when I think we were testing those unlimiteds, the one that you won Molokai on. And I remember just going through there. It was like we're just surfing 18-foot boards. It'd be epic. And I see footage of them whenever, they might pop up on something else, and I'm never sure if they got a jet ski whipping or what's going on, but it's cool. I think it's all cool, whatever you've got, and maybe where they are, who knows, like maybe they've never supped, maybe they'd be better at that than doing it on a sup, or maybe they just don't want to go and spend $2,000 on a sup board, and it's
I'm with you. There's no wrong or right. Every spot's a different thing. But for
the only part of it I don't really get, and is when people are trying to do it in the ocean, and they're using bigger boards than they would use to sup, because I feel like you're kind of going backwards just to prove a point. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, but you're talking like
that's just my opinion. I haven't tried it, so yeah. Which I don't know. Maybe there's something about it.
Yeah, I was speaking to Dave about it actually before, and hopefully I can get him to. I want to chat to him about it on here.
Yeah, I would love to watch that. I mean, I feel awkward saying it because he's obviously one of the best watermen in the world. He's an amazing man. And like, all of us at our age and all the kids, we should look up to him. He's amazing. But yeah, that I haven't gelled with that yet.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something in it. I don't know. It's just my opinion. And yeah, I think if he loves doing it, do it. And
that's it. 100%.
For me, I don't want to go to a longer board and a bigger board, and you can clearly see the boards seem like they're long, and maybe that's old footage. Maybe they're using little boards now. I don't know. But yeah, could be wrong.
I spoke to Dave about it briefly, and he said for sure it's slower. For sure the boards are bigger. The hand paddles are, he's paddling on his knees and all this other stuff. But he said, or maybe I saw him post on Instagram. He said the challenge, which is kind of what you're talking about, winging versus paddling, the focus. Cool. And really, he knows he's slower, and if he wants to go fast, he's going to take his sup. But if he wants to, he just wants to push it, and it's just something that he wants to explore. And here in Sydney, there's all these guys that want to learn to prone downwind foil, and I'm looking at them like, here in Sydney, like, have you seen how big their headlands are? And for sure, they're going to do really short downwind foils. There's a really good one along Narrabeen Beach. There's another good one further up the coast at Redhead Beach in a northeast wind. It's awesome, but you're limiting yourself to 3 to 4 to maybe 5 kilometers at the longest. So
I think that's cool. Like they obviously are probably prone foil surfers, and even if they do those little ones, they get the taste. And
I'm not discounting it at all. But I just want to do it. It's like I want to suck because you get like 120 k's or 100 k's we did. That's epic. Like that's so you're literally surfing away for 100 plus k's, and it's like wow. And
I agree. I think also for us, like we just came from different backgrounds as well. We came from sup and downwinding already. These boards felt tiny. We're used to running 18 footers. So everything felt radical. And I guess like these guys probably feel like they're taking a step backwards, because they're going to bigger boards, and some of these guys want to go downwind and surf, and they're not interested in going fast or wearing a watch and doing the races and stuff like that. So it's all just probably a different mindset.
And I guess on that, let's finish with, I think the beauty of foiling is you can do it so many different ways. You can wing, you can sup, you can prone, you can foil, you can use this new foil drive setup, which is somewhere in between. I think it's
toe foil.
There's so many.
I think the last time that you could travel, and we had the King of the Cut here, and Clement was here, and we did a downwinder a few days after, and we were going downwind, and I was just doing my normal thing, like trying to ride high, ride fast. That's just my mindset. And he's like, "Do you always go like this?" And I was like, "Yeah, what do you mean?" He goes, "Let's just surf." I'm like, "Oh yeah, we should do that." Okay. So then we just started surfing downwind, and I had a ball. I'd just always done my own thing, and I was always trying to perfect what I considered the art of it, and that was to ride high and fast and get, go from bump to bump and the best way possible. I was like, oh yeah, you can actually just do this for fun too, for different type of fun, I guess. And going back to the day thing, like the challenge stuff I've always loved. That's with the sup thing, doing the long distances and stuff like that. So that I get where he's coming from now with that. That makes more sense to me.
I was the same.
That's cool. Cool.
So many different ways to look at it. But yeah, let's wrap it up. So Marcus, thanks for coming on. This is the first one. Hopefully I get to do a few more. And yeah, this it was just felt like a chat like we would normally. I call Marcus all the time, but just literally my wife says that Marcus is like my second girlfriend. Call him and we're on the phone for like an hour and a half. So this
if I'm in a rush, I don't answer.
Yeah, that's why I don't answer sometimes. Busy with his actual girlfriend. But yeah, thanks for coming on, Marcus, and we'll definitely. There's so many more things I want to unpack with you, and maybe we can do it in person sometime soon because I want to come over to WA.
Cool.
We've got to catch up. It's been too long.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys, and yeah, we'll get more up soon.